All right. That's on. It's on.
Oh, I see. You just not in here.
I'll come around back. You can see us, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Cecil. There, we're on it.
Okay. So what everybody thinks went well?
I thought that you asked really good questions about the doctor. Like you bringing up the doctor and asking if I had gone to the doctor. That was a good. I thought that was really good. I thought you were a really reflective listener. Like you were like letting her talk and like waiting and then saying something.
Thank you.
So you asked really good questions.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. You were an excellent actor.
Yes, she is.
You should do it for a living.
She could.
We found your job.
Yeah.
I just like you seem like you do this all the time. It seems. Did you say your job is to do this stuff?
Yeah, I'm Child Protective Services.
Okay.
This is different in the aspect that we're focusing more on the individual problems inside where normally we work with the family, and then the individual stuff, the mental health
Later.
provider.
Yeah.
You know, so and then we just work with those. But I mean, I thought you all did really good as far as like letting them talk and then saying, okay, this is what I hear you saying. So I like that.
Anyone thinks that went well?
We all did.
I think it was really difficult not to give advice because that's your first instinct is to give advice.
Right.
I know I did that way too much. I mean, I think there's just a fine, like you can't give too much and like, especially on your initial, you need to get information from them and empower them like through something other than you telling them. You know, I don't know. I just feel like I gave a ton of advice. I think it's hard to do that.
I just think it's difficult to think of questions just like this, out of your head when you know you're being timed.
It is difficult to think of those questions on demand, but I think in a more natural setting without a camera, it may not be as traumatic. Yeah.
I got lost on somewhere in the middle with Roberta, and I just had to think and try to get back on track. So I don't remember what point it was, but I did get lost in there.
Oh, kind of like, I think it was like where you wanted to you wanted to tell her what to do, and then she says, well, what can you tell me? Like, what, are there any ways
I think
you can
that
help
was,
me?
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't tell you what to do.
That's where you,
Yeah,
that's exactly where it was.
Well, I think you all did really good with the body language. I mean, nobody was sitting there like, you all suck.
Right, or like laid back
You were
like I
very,
am now.
more like you were interested in what the other person was saying.
There was one time I was smiling when Roberta was talking to me. I was like, I probably shouldn't smile when she said she's depressed. I'm like, I know. I had to catch myself like, don't be happy at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, check yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And body language, I feel like, will become more natural to you, like when you do it, like
Right.
when you see people. I feel like everyone did a good job. I think you're right.
I think everybody did overall.
Yeah. I got lost in like where to go. Like, do you talk about the disorder or the diagnosis, or do you not? Like, how do you? It was hard. Like, do I assume they have a diagnosis? Do I not? Do I talk about the diagnosis like really in depth?
Yeah, where is it our place to say, well, I think you might have.
Right.
And I think I diagnosed you. One did
Me. Yeah.
Yeah, and
But I guess
maybe I should have said maybe you're showing signs.
Yeah, like-
maybe I shouldn't have said that at all.
with the questions like, did you lead the client or make assumptions? Like,
Yeah, I did.
it's
I made
easy
assumptions.
to. I mean, it's
I was like, so you got strained relationships.
Yeah.
Just tell me about it.
Yeah.
yeah. It's even harder too. I've noticed like when you know the scenario, like
Right.
you know what they're coming to you.
I was beginning to
But-
think maybe it'd been easier if we just kind of
Big no. Yeah.
Yeah, just let you do something. Be like, talk to you more without knowing where where
Yeah.
if you were coming from the depressive disorder or whatever, just it being more random.
Yeah. What would you do different? What questions could you ask?
I think I would have try to be more relaxed as instead of more worried about, oh, I'm going to mess up, or what question, because I always have a problem with, you know, what's my next question? You know, what if she says something I don't know how to answer? So that's where I think I would have done different. I think listening, because I was more focused on, you know,
Your next question.
my next question. I was listening, and I think when I was trying to reflect, I was like, did she even say that? So
Yeah.
so that was bad.
Well, it's okay. I think I would have asked more questions, like when I was a social worker, like about, like, your boys, or like your son, in ways that you have dealt with it. I guess I struggled with, like, what set of questions to ask.
And I'm sorry, I'm not very good at like telling a lot about myself, so that's why it's very hard. So
Yeah, because it's
I'm
your
not a very-
personal
yeah.
like, situation. Yeah.
So
I guess just
I'm not usually an open book, so it's really hard for me. So I
Yeah.
probably wasn't the best client.
Oh, you were fine.
But
You
you
were
know,
fine.
that's kind of realistic in a way.
It
because not
is.
everybody's going to be like, well, here's my life history.
Right.
Have at it. Because a lot of times what I've noticed is the families that we work with, mental health providers in the groups, that they change so frequently. And people get to like, well, I just told this person, and I don't know you. I don't want to
Wanna tell
open
you.
up and tell you about
Yeah.
this. So you really have to spend that time, I think, building the rapport with them where you're not going to know her.
It's very true. I feel like I've lost my direction. So like to know like questions like leading to talking about the diagnosis, like talking more about you. Since it was surrounding your voice, it's hard. Like that was like where I went, but I should have gone, more with what you were doing.
I should have given you more insight.
No, you did fine.
You did.
Well, I think, with you asking those questions, you would eventually have built that up because, a parent normally likes to talk about their children.
Kids, right?
So that's
That's the
warming
thing.
her up.
Right.
And, she
Yeah.
could get more information on her own.
True.
More time.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll do it in our next visit.
Okay. we'll take right back up on that.
I struggle with with more open-ended questions because I just want to be like,
so
yes,
hard.
no's, and sometimes it's harder to stop and say, okay, explain what you're
Right.
telling me. Because,
Can you give me more info?
right,
Like
because
asking that.
somebody's version of how they're, well, I feel sad and lonely. Well, what is sad and lonely compared to what somebody else is feeling? So,
Right.
so I guess you just got to take time to explore it, which I didn't really do. So, sorry. I failed you.
No, so I'm gonna kill myself. No. Well, you know what? Too, I think maybe I shouldn't ask you about how much your husband about coming to therapy because it was too early to talk about that. I think. Do you think that? That shouldn't have.
No,
been.
I mean, like, I feel like with a baby, like, I feel like he does have some, like, I don't know, I thought it was fine.
I just thought maybe I shouldn't have told her.
Okay. Because, I mean, I could have said no, and then it would be,
Right. But you did it.
no.
Okay.
I thought it was fine. It is hard to ask open-ended questions, really hard.
Right, because you just kind of want to get to the bottom of it.
And then to track with that person,
Mm-hmm.
like, what did they talk about 5 minutes ago to what are they talking about now,
Right.
and, like, how that ties together,
I'm really bad about when I talk to my kids. I'm like, if you see me writing something down, don't be alarmed. I'm just old and I can't remember it.
I
at
do
this
that all the
point in my
time.
life.
How would you
I
post
should have
it?
done that with Roberta.
So,
Because she gave me so much information, I never did say, okay, let me write a few things down.
because
Yeah.
especially when you go, they're like, what are you doing? They're suspicious of
Yeah, they
everything
want,
you're doing.
yeah.
What are you writing about me?
Writing a novel.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
Okay, we did the last, we good?
Yeah.
Really good about thinking of your faith as a sort of comfort zone. Were there moments that it felt the diagnostic interview took you to an uncomfortable place?
I don't feel like no. You made me feel good, Roberta. I like talking to you.
I wasn't extremely out of my comfort zone. Yes, it was uncomfortable in the aspect that it's recorded. And
Is it uncomfortable? Like, I mean uncomfortable, like it's
Like we talked
uncomfortable.
about?
Yeah, or like when we.
I don't know.
I
I
felt-
don't think we really got into
It wasn't a full.
anything that would have religiously been like, okay, this is against my core values and beliefs,
Right.
and made you uncomfortable in that aspect. Like maybe sex offender or someone who has physically abused a child or something.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I didn't feel uncomfortable.
No, mine's just because I was nervous because
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't been exposed to many like interviewing type of deal, so that's something I'm just gonna have to learn.
I feel like it gets easier once you do it more and more.
Yeah.
You're not
so.
as uncomfortable. You're not as
Right.
on video or in. I mean, you've done
On
it
video.
more.
On video. I don't like being recorded.
I don't really like
Yeah.
the recorded aspect.
Do you think I jumped topic to topic?
Huh?
Because it's in here, it says, question jumping from topic to topic. Do you think I did? I mean,
You seem pretty consistent.
No, I thought you were
see?
consistent. I jumped from topic to topic. I don't think you did. Because, like I said, I didn't know who to go with, her or her boys.
Yeah.
So I was like jumping back and forth. I felt like a lot.
Well, I think it's okay if you jump back to something you covered before. Be like, okay, so this is what you're saying, but let's kind of relate it to what you said earlier about this. And, I don't know, maybe. I think there's a saving grace there somewhere. I mean, you could find it at some point, maybe. I hope.
You think I sounded motherly? I wanted to take a mother role, and I had to, I was like, how do I stop doing that? Because it's like, you
I don't think you did.
So now you do tend to do a motherly type thing.
Which I think is, I mean,
That may make it easy for some people to
right,
to
to
relate,
relate.
feel open to talk to you.
But not like, hey, I'm your mom. I'm going to tell you what to do.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, but I wanted to sit there and give you things like I can't do that. Well, I think every mom, that's just like an instinct for you. It's like you're the first mom, and it's just this is the way it is. And you can get a lot of that, from every mother that's in your family. They're going to sit there and, well, I did this and this and that. And sometimes it's good, but sometimes like, please just
Just not
don't say that.
Yeah.
Or when I was pregnant, that type of deal.
So I don't think you did that at all. I thought you just were like, hey, good. Have you done this? Have you done that? Like very like information questions that you needed. I don't think it was like.
But I wanted to. I really wanted to sit there and say, okay, I'm an experienced mom. Let
I
me
think
tell
the
you what
good
I
thing
know.
about the four of us, we all had different ways about doing it, so it could affect somebody differently.
Right.
Like you'd be good for somebody,
Right.
That's what makes the world go round.
No, you're not going to click with everybody. You're not going to have that same effect on, each individual.
We all had our own style,
Right.
I guess.
Right.
It was good. Y'all feel good? Good?
Yeah.
Yep,
The
we're
end.
good.
The end.
See you, Dr. Cecil.
Bye. Yeah, like in 5 minutes.